When I took the Bethel Women's pastor position, it was the worst timing. We were just coming out of the pandemic, the world was opening up, and I travel for a living. I'm on the road. And I just started to ask God, what do you want me to do with my season, my life at this moment? I thought he was gonna move me on, that I was gonna do full-time ministry on the road. And all of a sudden I felt him leading me to be here at Bethel. And I wrestled with that. It just felt opposite. And then not only that, when I took the position, we were at a really low time as a community. Not only had our doors been closed for almost a year, we had said goodbye to our senior pastors who had gone and planted a church. And then we were fighting for Benny's life, and we were contending. And so it felt like being here was not this fun, exuberant, big church experience. It was like the dark night of the soul as a community. And so I wrestled with it, but I felt like God said, stay and give your heart to this community, like give your life at this season for your community. And so I sat with it for a while. I even was slow to make things happen because I just kind of wrestled with, am I supposed to be here? But more and more I felt God leading me. And as I engaged my heart as a woman at Bethel, as a mom, as somebody who's wants God's heart but didn't know how to do that in this season, I started feeling the heart of God for the women. But it really didn't happen until one night when I was at a conference. I spontaneously had popped into one evening session and the worship is going. And I just think it's like any other night. I love worship. I love our worship. Bethel has good worship. And all of a sudden, I heard the Lord begin to have a conversation with me. You know how God does that when he starts to talk to you? And I heard him begin to say, Havilah, you know how you never had a heart to have a daughter? Now, if you don't know, I have 4 boys, and I'm an identical twin to a girl. I've been in a female environment, and I only imagined myself having girls until I had my first son. And when I had my first son, I thought, this is what I'm supposed to do. I knew it. It was just what God had. And so after each boy, a lot of people would say, oh, don't you wish you want to try for your girl? Or, oh, you got pregnant again. Are you trying for your girl? And I would almost feel embarrassed to say no, I actually want boys. This is what I feel like is on my life, and I'm excited about it. And so I just had kind of filed it away as that's perfect for me. But God brought it up. He was like, Havilah, you know how you've never had a heart to have daughters? I'm like, yeah, I know that. And he said, well, I'm gonna give you a heart to have a daughter. Not on the earth, but in a community. The heart of the daughters. And I'm like, okay, you'll have to explain that a little bit more. And he said, I'm gonna give you this ache for the girls in this generation, an ache that you can't shake, an ache that begins to look for girls that have been lost to be brought in to being known. And as he began to share it with me, I began to feel this heart like I had never felt for women. Never. It was not a heart of a leader or the heart of a pastor. It was like the mom heart. It was the heart that was like, not on my watch, not with my daughter. You are going to be known and I'm going to pursue you. And I started wrestling with this okay, God, what does that mean? And he began to talk to me about what lost meant. And lost means unclaimed. It's almost actually goes to discarded, to not knowing who they are. And as I looked at lost, I thought, that's what it is. We have a generation of women, not young women only, but all women that have felt unclaimed. They feel like they're here and they have a story and a message and a heart, but they don't know how to do that well. And, they don't want to just fight for a seat at the table. They want a chair pulled up that they could sit down and know, I belong here. And I began to feel the heart of God. And I heard him say, I'm going to grab your hand, Havilah, And you're going to find lost girls and you're going to look at them and say, will you join me? And he said to me, I'm a collector of lost girls. I'm a collector of the girls that have been unclaimed and unknown and discarded. And I'm going to carry that in your heart so that you can actually walk that out. That night changed me. Like all of a sudden I went from daughter and friend to mom. And then I started looking around at our community and seeing I'm not alone. There is a mother heart in our environment that desperately wants to help other women, just like I do. I began to think about the woman that has set the pace for us. You know, Benny was not just a beautiful woman and a mom and a wife and a grandma. She was a matriarch, and she wasn't the type of woman that you would assume is that kind of woman. But what you found as you got to know her and hear her thoughts and hear her voice was that she was full of courage, she was brave, she was fierce, and she was full of conviction. And it's easy to assume that's how she came. But you have to go back into her history to find out that that's not how she came. She talked about this one moment when she went to a conference and she didn't know what God was going to do, but she said, I walked in as a lamb and I was shy and afraid and not sure. And then I walked out of there like a lioness. But it wasn't just because she walked into a room and she met some really powerful people. It was because she encountered God. And that encounter infused her with courage for the next season. And she didn't even know what the next season would be, but God saw what was on her life and the people that were waiting for her on the other side of her encounter. And that's what happens to us. The encounter of God, it changes us. We see ourselves through His eyes. And we don't see ourselves as unclaimed and broken and discarded. We see ourselves as known, loved, worthy, and called. So I invite you to bring your whole self and walk into the environment with us, not just to be in the room, but to encounter the living God, the one that saw you, knows you, and knows what's up ahead of you to prepare you for what He's called you to do. That we would leave as lioness, we would leave with courage, and we would live with the reality of the wonder that He put within each of us.